She is 21 years old. She is from the Philippines. And she just walked straight into a $7.4 million tournament, locked eyes with the world number 10 across the net, and didn't blink for a single second. Look, on paper, Eala is not supposed to be sitting at this table yet. That is what the official rankings say. That is what the tournament seeds say. But clearly, nobody bothered to deliver that memo to her, because this young woman just went out, took down a top 3 player on the planet in a championship final, shattered the ceiling to break into the world's top 20, and practically turned every single arena she has stepped foot in this summer into an absolute Filipino fiesta. And now, standing right between her and a coveted spot in the round of 16 at the Cincinnati Open, is Amanda Anisimova, a 2-time Grand Slam finalist who knows exactly what it takes to survive at the absolute summit of professional tennis. Make no mistake about it, this is not some cute, feel-good underdog fairy tale anymore. This is a full-blown takeover. You see, throughout any tennis season, there are routine matches you throw on in the background simply because they happen to be on the TV schedule. And then, there are those rare clashes that feel like they were scripted by a master dramatist. Matches wrapped in pure, suffocating pressure, soaked in layered storylines, and completely impossible to turn your eyes away from. This high-stakes third-round showdown between Eala of the Philippines and Amanda Anisimova of the United States is without question that second kind of match. Every single bit of it. Think about the sheer contrast here. You have got a fearless, red-hot 21-year-old rising star going head-to-head against a battle-hardened, 24-year-old powerhouse who has already fought her way to the final Sunday of 2 Grand Slams. This is their first-ever career meeting, under the blazing summer heat on the hard courts of the Lindner Family Tennis Center out in Mason, Ohio. And honestly, before either player even hit a single warm-up ball on the practice courts, tour writers, broadcasters, and analysts had already crowned this as the undisputed marquee match of the 2026 Cincinnati Open. This isn't merely a scrap over who punches a ticket to the 4th round. Not even close. For Eala, this match represents a monumental, career-defining chapter right in the middle of the most important stretch of tennis she has ever played in her life. For Anisimova, it is a crucial, high-leverage test in her fierce mission to claw her way back to the devastating form that completely terrorized the women's tour throughout the second half of 2025. You have 2 massive storylines, 1 single tennis court, and literally 0 margin for error. And here is the fascinating wrinkle that turns this showdown into an absolute must-watch. These two have never played each other. Not once. 0 previous head-to-head history. No archived tape of their matchups to break down. No established tactical patterns to review in the film room. No lingering mental scars from old battles to lean on for either supreme confidence or cautious hesitation. This story gets written totally live, in real time, right in front of a Cincinnati crowd that has quietly, step by step, transformed into what feels like a roaring home court for Eala, supercharged by a massive, electric wave of Filipino and Filipino-American fans who have been traveling in droves, following her every single move across the continent this summer. So, let's break this down piece by piece. Let's talk form, let's talk momentum, and let's dive deep into the matchup math. Eala walked through the gates in Cincinnati, riding an absolute lightning bolt of positive energy. Walking in as the tournament's 17th seed, the highest WTA seeding she has ever held in her young career, she earned a well-deserved first-round bye before getting right down to business against Romania's Elena Gabriela Ruse. And let's be completely real, that second-round performance was an absolute statement to the rest of the draw. After suffering an early hiccup and dropping her very first service game, Eala flipped a switch, dialed in, and rattled off 6 consecutive games with ruthless efficiency. She slammed the door on the opening set 6-1 and was already sprinting out to a dominant 3-0 double-break lead in the second set when a sudden lightning storm rolled over Mason and shut down the entire facility. Ruse, who had been visibly battling a lingering right foot issue during that weather delay, made the difficult call not to return to the court when play resumed. The official box score officially went down as a 6-1, 3-0 retirement victory for Eala. Now, obviously, nobody ever wants to see a match end on an injury or a walk-off, but you have to look at the level of tennis Eala was putting on display before the skies opened up. It was pure, surgical dominance. Her return metrics from that match were nothing short of eye-popping. She won a staggering 71% of her first serve return points, and an even more absurd 78% on second serve returns. Against elite competition, numbers like that aren't just solid stats. They are lethal weapons. And she is about to face an opponent who represents a massive step up in weight class. On the other side of this bracket, Amanda Anisimova took care of business in impressive fashion against the dangerous Turkish rising talent Zeynep Sönmez. Anisimova closed it out cleanly with a 6-2, 6-3 straight sets clinic, brushing off the very same weather disruptions that impacted the schedule. The ninth-seeded American looked remarkably composed, completely locked into her rhythm from the opening game. She did what she does best, flattening out her blistering ground strokes off both wings, taking the ball right on the rise, and snatching time away before Sönmez could even think about setting her feet. When Anisimova gets into that zone where she is striking the ball with that kind of pure, effortless timing, she becomes an absolute nightmare to share a court with. This collision has had a giant red circle around it ever since the tournament draw was released to the public. Tour analysts immediately flagged the bottom half of this quarter, highlighting the fact that the 9th and 17th seeds were tracking toward an explosive third-round showdown, and both women delivered on that promise without skipping a beat. But make no mistake, the stakes in this clash reach way beyond just the Cincinnati round of 16. The winner of this blockbuster is projected to collide with the 6th seed and reigning Wimbledon champion, Linda Noskova, in the 4th round. And that is where things get genuinely uncomfortable for Eala on paper. Noskova already holds a commanding 2-0 head-to-head advantage over Eala just this season alone, having handed her a tough 6-2, 6-1 defeat out in the desert at Indian Wells, followed by a hard-fought 6-2, 6-4 win in the final of the Berlin Open. Both losses were clean, both were convincing, and both left a sting. And if Eala manages to conquer Anisimova and somehow get past that daunting Noskova hurdle, the projected gauntlet only gets more terrifying. Her theoretical path includes a massive quarterfinal rematch against Jessica Pegula, the exact same world-class player she shocked in the WTA Open final, followed by a projected semifinal against the devastating power of Elena Rybakina and a dream championship final against the undisputed world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka. It is a brutal, merciless, absolute gauntlet of a draw. And that is precisely why this third-round match against Anisimova carries the intense, do-or-die weight of a must-win final. To really understand how this battle is going to unfold, we have to pull back the curtain on who these two athletes truly are, because their individual player profiles and distinct stylistic identities matter immensely here. Let's start with Eala, 21 years old, representing the Philippines, currently ranked world number 20 and holding that 17th seed in the draw. She is a left-hander, and trust me, that specific detail carries way more tactical significance in this matchup than casual fans might realize. Eala developed her game and sharpened her competitive teeth at the world-famous Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain. She built a glittering reputation during her teenage years as a junior Grand Slam champion. And then, rather than stalling out like so many hyped prospects do, she transitioned that junior promise into elite, tour-level WTA wins faster than almost anybody in the tennis world anticipated. Her 2026 campaign has been an absolute revelation. It started with a historic, headline-grabbing run deep into the second week at Wimbledon that put the entire WTA locker room on high alert. Then came the ultimate breakthrough. On August 3rd, she captured her maiden WTA title at the prestigious Mubadala City DC Open by stunning world number 3 Jessica Pegula in a masterclass final. That historic triumph officially crowned her as the first Filipino tennis player in the history of the sport to ever break into the world's top 20 rankings. She followed that up by storming into the round of 16 at the WTA 1000 in Toronto before finally bowing out to Belinda Bencic. But what happened in Canada was bigger than just the tennis. The fan support from the local Filipino community reached such an overwhelming fever pitch that tennis fans and media began affectionately dubbing the stadium Barangay Toronto. Tactically, Eala's game is anchored around a heavy, aggressive lefty forehand that she uses like a paintbrush, dictating baseline rallies and aggressively hunting winners from every single pocket of the court. Combine that heavy forehand with a return game that has been statistically among the elite on tour all summer long, and you have a player who can break matches wide open. Furthermore, her left-handed delivery on serve naturally creates wicked, sliding angles that right-handed opponents simply do not see on a daily basis, especially when she slices the ball sharp and wide into the ad court to drag righties off the playing surface. Above all else, she plays with a fearless, unrelenting hunger when the stakes are highest. A 21-year-old does not just go out and take down a top-3 player in a tour final if they are prone to freezing under the bright stadium lights. However, the questions surrounding her game are very real. When you analyze her toughest defeats, the recurring theme has been her ability to maintain consistency against opponents who can match or exceed her raw firepower from the baseline. Amanda Anisimova successfully blew her off the court twice this season with pure, unadulterated pace. Can Eala's high-octane aggression hold its shape when someone on the other side of the net is hitting the ball just as flat, just as deep, and with significantly more physical strength behind every strike? That is the exact tactical puzzle hanging over this contest. And that brings us directly to Amanda Anisimova, 24 years old, American, ranked world number 10, seeded 9th in this tournament, right-handed with an absolute cannon of a two-handed backhand, and holding a career-high ranking of world number 3, which she achieved just this past January. When you step back and look at the modern landscape of women's tennis, Anisimova possesses one of the most compelling, resilient personal journeys in the entire sport. She first burst onto the international scene as an explosive teenage sensation, making a breathtaking run all the way to the French Open semifinals in 2019 at just 17 years of age by completely dismantling the defending champion, Simona Halep. But the relentless grind took its toll, and in 2023, she made the brave, highly publicized decision to step away from professional tennis entirely to prioritize and protect her mental health. Her eventual return to the WTA Tour blossomed into one of the most universally celebrated comeback stories in modern sports history. Amanda has openly shared how fellow tour players reached out to thank her privately, explaining that her courage gave them the validation and permission they needed to put their own well-being ahead of their careers. And when she got back on the court, her tennis did all the talking. In 2025, she caught absolute fire. She claimed massive WTA 1000 titles in both Doha and Beijing, blasted her way into the Wimbledon final, reached the championship match of the U.S. Open under the lights in New York against Aryna Sabalenka, and officially closed out the season ranked inside the world's top 5 for the first time in her life. However, the 2026 season has thrown some serious turbulence her way. She went through a high-profile coaching split back in March. Shortly after, a stubborn left wrist injury completely derailed her European clay court swing, forcing her to miss 2 critical months of competition. When she returned at Roland Garros, she understandably looked a bit rusty and out of sync, exiting the tournament in the 3rd round. She was unable to defend her deep grass court run at Queen's Club from the previous year. And while she showed undeniable flashes of brilliance at Wimbledon with some clean straight-set victories, that free-flowing, utterly unplayable version of Anisimova from 2025 has been a bit harder to track down this year. Yet, despite that adversity, she is still a top 10 force. She is still a 2-time major finalist. And when she steps onto a fast, hard court, the surface where her ultra-flat, hyper-aggressive ground strokes find their ultimate home, she remains one of the most terrifying, dangerous threats in any tournament draw on earth. Her strengths are undeniable. She possesses elite, world-class ball striking off both wings. Her ability to take the ball at waist height and drive it deep into the corners with blistering pace completely smothers opponents, rushing their preparation and leaving them gasping for air between points. Plus, she has proven ice-cold composure on the grandest